Hello, and I'm Elizabeth Jones,
I'm Cal Kaplan.
and we are going to talk about biblical psychology today. Cal, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the topic of biblical psychology.
Sure. I mean, there really have been 5 waves of psychology in our lifetimes. Generally, it was the psychodynamic movement out of which Freud and people like that came, and in reaction to that, there was behaviorist movement like Watson, people like that. Then there was humanistic psychology, Maslow, people like that, Carl Rogers, and then there was more the multicultural stuff, which oftentimes coincided with kind of postmodernism. And now we've reached a 5th stage. It's just perking up, and I would call that religious psychology or biblical and spiritual psychology. And in some ways, it's the first one that's been patient or client-driven, because the patients and the clients seem to be wishing for a more transcendent, meaning-giving psychology than one which simply they've been going to in traditional psychology, which it really doesn't seem to answer the ultimate questions they want to ask about their life.
Well, you and I have talked. We've talked for a long time about how traditional psychology falls short. And traditional psychology is a wonderful thing, and as you know, you are well trained in psychology. But
Well,
how exactly does it fall short?
Well, it can be a wonderful thing. It also can be a very frustrating and depressing thing, as a matter of fact. Well, it falls short in that it doesn't really address people's need for meaning in their lives, in the sense that life has a purpose or a hope. Oftentimes it seems to be involved in the reduction of one pathology or another. So it might help in terms of ending smoking or overcoming a phobia or this kind of thing. But in terms of invigorating a person with a sense that life has a purpose and that life has meaning, it really doesn't do it.
Well, now I'm a chaplain. Cal's a licensed clinical psychologist, and together we do teach a course called A Biblical Approach to Mental Health. And you'll be able to read about that more on this YouTube channel. But Cal, how exactly does biblical psychology present hope? I'm all about hope in my work as a chaplain, but how does biblical psychology present hope?
If you look at traditional, certainly psychoanalytic thinking, but not just that, the foundation stories are Greek. For example, Freud uses Oedipus. Psychiatrists today use Narcissus. Jung used Electra. And these are all Greek narratives. And what would have happened if biblical or Hebrew narratives were used instead? So in our program, we've compared the story of Isaac to that of Oedipus, the story of Ruth to that of Electra, and the story of Jonah to that of Narcissus, to try to create a structure which is not tragic or cyclical, but one which allows true human development and therefore hope. It allows the idea that people can and do change, rather than simply go back and forth through the same old.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's one thing that I've noticed, that people do tend to give up hope or get depressed, get anxious, all kinds of what you would call pathologies, what I would call spiritual malaise. But it comes down, when we come down to brass tacks, it's pretty much the same thing, where they don't have any hope. And you're hoping that biblical psychology will provide that support and that hope for people.
Yes, give them a sense of purpose, give them a sense that your life has meaning. All those terms are connected. Being able to change, hope, meaning, purpose, that there's a reason why they're here.
Well, this sounds like a great beginning for our conversations. We're going to have a bunch of continuing conversations here and on this channel. And Cal, is there anything that you'd like to say in closing?
Well, just that we're aware of the phobia that many people have towards the Bible because of the bad experiences that they've had where one theology or another has been rammed down their throats. This is not our approach at all. This is a non-theological approach. We desituate these stories and this way of thinking from a particular prescribed theology. This is very important to get over people's phobia. Many people in America and the world have had terrible religious experiences, and we honor that they've had that, but we want them to take another look at the biblical wisdom, independent of the negative, unfortunate experiences they've had. And likewise, we also we want to open our stuff up to secular people, and also we want to steer it away from straight fundamentalism or theology. We welcome people with biblical faith, but we want them to not let that faith keep them from thinking as to what these stories mean. You can have all the faith in the world, but you don't necessarily know how to apply that in a given father, son, or mother-daughter relationship or sibling. And this is an example of how we use biblical stories concretely and practically in family therapy.
Now, we're going to be looking at biblical narratives, and I think that's a great beginning for our conversations. Thank you.